And the final candidate on this part is Margaret Dugan. Margaret, you want the podium?
Well, I'm Margaret Dugan, and I too would like to thank the PTA and Michelle for hosting us this afternoon or evening now, it looks like, for having us come together and present to you who we are and what we stand for in education. I want to tell you a little bit about who I am and what brings me here today. First of all, I'm a native Arizonan, and I'm very proud of that. I was born up north in a ghost town. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Jerome, Arizona. My father was a copper miner up in Jerome, and we were there until the mines closed down and moved down to Bisbee, Arizona, another ghost town, which is more like a little arts community. And that's where I spent my life in Bisbee until I was 18. So I went from one ghost town to another, and I pride myself in being a copper miner's daughter instead of a coal miner's daughter. I was one of 10 children. My father was a hardworking copper miner. My mother stayed at home with 10 children. As you might know, that would be a tough job to do as well. My parents were my first teachers, and PTA, I'm sure you can obviously honor that parents are our children's first teachers. They taught me work ethic. They taught me the value of a good education. And I can tell you today that all of my 9 brothers and sisters have a very strong work ethic and value education because my parents valued a good education. My father was a high school dropout, but his heart and his goal was for all of his children to get a good education. I'm not a career politician, but I am a career educator. I have been in education for 37 years. I have the most experience of all the candidates here today. That doesn't mean I am the best, but I believe I am the most experienced. Of course, I do believe I'm the best, personally. I have sat in every chair in education. I started out as a teacher. I was a teacher for over 13 years. I was a teacher mentor. I was an assistant principal. I was a principal for 10 years at Glendale High School, which is located on 62nd Avenue in Glendale, if you kind of know the geography of Phoenix. I was a district administrator, and currently I'm the deputy superintendent down at the Arizona Department of Education. So I have the depth and breadth of experience for education. My life's work has been in education. When people talk about education in Arizona, it's not abysmal. We have great schools in Arizona, and I commend the teachers, and I commend the students for what we have accomplished in the last 8 years. We have increased our AIM scores. We are above the national average on the SAT-10. That is not because our teachers are not working. That's not because our students aren't achieving. We are above the national average on the college entrance ACT and SAT. Is that where we want to be? No, but we are achieving. So when you hear that Arizona is 49th, yes, we might be 49th in funding, but we are not 49th in academic achievement. And I applaud the teachers for their hard work, and I applaud our students for doing a good job in the classroom, but we can do better. As a principal, I turned around a high school that was filled with gang activity when I arrived at Glendale High School, but I worked with our teachers, and we worked hard to turn Glendale High School from a low-performing to a high-achieving school. And you can do that with all of our schools in Arizona that are low-achieving. But you don't turn a school around by focusing on remediation, but you turn it around by increasing the rigor. You look at high standards and high academics. Again, I'm not new to politics because I will explain that later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There will be a part 2 opportunity. Oops, excuse me. We'll now start with questions. And on these questions, I think originally I said 3 minutes to respond, but questions are coming in at quite a clip. So if we can look at 2.5 minutes, timekeepers, these questions can be 2.5 minutes. So you'll get the notice again at 30 seconds left and red for stop. The first question is, Proposition 100 has passed as a 3-year temporary bandage to the struggles of funding public schools in Arizona. What do you believe are the next steps? And Mr. Williams, we'll begin with you again.
This must be my lucky day. 2 times I get to start first. You know, I was a strong advocate for the passage of Prop 100 just because of what would have happened to our schools had it not passed. But I always go out and make sure to let folks know that it was nothing but a Band-Aid, because it doesn't actually provide money to invest in our schools. It's just helping to plug holes around the cuts that were made. I believe very strongly that there's a couple things that need to happen, and under my administration, should I have the privilege of being state superintendent, this is what I intend to do. The first is what should be the responsibility of the superintendent, which is to present what they feel is the ideal budget for our children and our schools to the state legislature, to advocate strongly for that. But I intend to do that through a very aggressive grassroots advocacy plan, so that I'm not just simply going down to the Capitol and speaking myself, but I've done due diligence to travel across this state and talk with parents, with educators, with everyone who's willing to listen about what we need to be putting pressure on the legislature for. But secondly, I intend to look at what is in the direct control of the state superintendent to be able to bring resources into the schools that doesn't involve what tend to be the 2 key roadblocks, the state legislature and taxes. And there's 3 things in that arena that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do right away. The first is in terms of the Department of Education and how it's structured. The current superintendent's made it one of the most bloated state departments around in terms of administrative costs. I intend to cut administrative costs to be able to shift money to programs where our children need them the most. We need to be operating as lean and efficiently as possible in a time like now especially. Second is federal grant money. Right now we're what we would call a donor state, where we're sending money in taxes to the federal government, but we're not going after all the grants that we're eligible to receive, because the Department of Ed only concerns itself with the grants that it gets to directly control, instead of supporting our local school districts and applying for and receiving grant money. And lastly, I'm going to establish a council of nonprofits, where we're going to be able to partner with nonprofit organizations to provide art, music, health and wellness, mentoring, tutoring, etc. for our kids in our schools, because they can do it far more efficiently and effectively than the Department of Ed trying to run all those programs itself.
Thank you. Dr. Price.
I have a sheet that gives the 9 talking points of my plan, and the first 3 are probably the most important, and those are the ones I'm going to concentrate on right away. Number 1 is looking at curriculum with a vision for the 21st century and bringing those scores up. Secondly, security, from home to school, in school, and home again. I don't want us ever to experience a Columbine. And number 3, interventions to help students, whether they're on drugs or they're going to commit suicide. At one time, I had a student right in front of my desk planning to kill another student. That's unacceptable. And that is what I want to bring to the plate, that we care for our students, and we don't want that kind of activity happening in our schools, and we can prevent it if we have good interventions.
Thank you.